It breaks my heart to know that the world has turned a blind eye to over 5 million people starving to death. Millions of children with all their sense of safety and security stripped away. And what have they done to deserve this? The message we're getting from the world ignoring their pain for over a year and a half is that somehow, whether it be historically, geopolitically, ethnically, somehow we are predisposed to this, to suffering, that it's easier to ignore than to pause, to be horrified, and to help put an end to this. Political violence and power struggles are part of our global history. Those who abuse their power will always pop up and find a way to ruin millions of lives in their quest for total control. But it is the responsibility of the international bodies we've entrusted to keep a watchful eye, to investigate, and to act urgently to protect the innocent lives of people everywhere against those who abuse their power, to keep history from repeating itself. And it is our responsibility to advocate for them, to make sure that they do not suffer in silence. We cannot afford to politicize the lives of innocent people, to the point that for so many generations, all they know is war and destruction. It becomes a way of life. Even when their leader got up in front of the world stage and vowed to not allow war to destroy his nation, that is exactly what he does. And now children are out of education, malnourished, and dying horrible deaths. It is senseless. It's heartbreaking. No one deserves this. It must be stopped. Almost 40 years ago, the world vowed to never allow the disaster that claimed over 1.2 million lives happen again. The 1984 famine was described as hell on earth. Songs were released to raise millions in charity. Prizes were awarded to photographers of the famine. It is said that this famine in many ways helped to shape the global humanitarian system we have today. Because the world realized compassion should be bigger than borders. That each person and each nation has a global responsibility for each other's safety and freedom, and access to basic human needs. Because none of us is free until we are all free. But right now, in 2022, we are seeing, and for the most part ignoring, another man-made famine. It should not matter whether this is happening in Australia, or Europe, or Tigray. Famine should not have to be packaged nicely in order to be taken seriously anywhere in the world. We should not have to beg to bring attention to a war crime that is plain to see. International laws and agencies exist and were created to prevent this, and they need to act efficiently, because our people have nowhere else to turn, and they cannot wait. There is no justification for the inadequacy of aid delivery at the current rate. We have a global responsibility to help the defenseless. We are at an estimated death toll of over 500,000. Aside from the 5 million facing acute food insecurity in Tigray, another 3 million are at risk in other regions. That is a combined almost 10 million people facing starvation, and many more will continue to starve and suffer long after the war is over as a result of the destruction of agricultural infrastructure and their livelihoods. Famine as a weapon of war is an atrocious crime. It is a human rights violation. And it is only one of the tools this government has used in an attempt to destroy our people for its own selfish gains. No matter the political debate, starving people into submission is an evil and unspeakable act. There can be no debate about whether this is a deliberate act to undermine the humanity of people in an attempt to gain and stay in power. If this is not the first thing on the global agenda to protect against, then what is? The Ethiopian government believes that by putting Tigray in a blackout, taking away all freedom and access to the outside world, as well as spreading misinformation and false promises, he can confuse and appease the international community into inaction. But we will not allow that. We demand that our people receive the necessary access to food, life-saving medical aid, and other resources and services. And we demand that those responsible for this inhumane catastrophe be held to account.